In 2008, anonymous trolls and Japanese text board 2 channel, not 4chan, created a fake Vocaloid. This was part of an elaborate April Fool's Day joke which aimed to prank fans of their synthetic singing voice software by tricking them into believing a new vocal synth was about to be released. The fake Lloyd would be the fourth character in the character vocal series, which already consisted of 3 popular synths: Hatsune Miku, Kagemine Rin and Len, which are like a 2-for-1 kind of deal, and Megarine Luca. The trolls banded together to create this character. Their gender, hair, age, likes, and all sorts of other traits, such as a dislike of Detroit Metal City, which was probably a joke that worked better in 2008, were selected from user suggestions. Her gender was officially designated as a chimaera, you know, the monstrous, fire-breathing, lion-goat-snake hybrid from Greek mythology. I can see the resemblance so clearly. She was stated to be 31, but also maybe 15 and a half, because you can argue that chimeras age differently from humans, and so her real age is actually like half a human age, but it's also not official at all, so you can just kind of do what you want with her. Personally, I think her age should be whatever is funniest at the moment, especially in contrast to Miku. I like it when she's actually twice Miku's age without Miku realizing. She was also given a character item, as was popular at the time. Like, people were fighting wars over which vocal synth got which arbitrary thing. Rin and Len had an origin of banana, Luca a tuna fish, and Miku is commonly seen with her leek. For reasons that are unclear, I think some kind of convoluted bread pun, this new synth got a baguette. Official art was created by Sen, who deliberately mimics Kei's style, the illustrator responsible for designs of the character vocal series Lloyds, adding a layer of authenticity to the otherwise questionable character choices. This design was pretty clearly derivative of Hatsune Miku, with her main colour being red rather than cyan, and long twin tails replaced by twin drills, riffing on Miku's immense popularity. Oyo Mano Mayo provided the demo voice for the announcement, but this was just for the joke, and nowhere near a full voice bank. Additionally, a fake webpage was created, resulting in a lot of people being genuinely tricked due to the sheer amount of detail and creativity put in the hoax. It was so convincing that for a very brief moment, the fandom truly believed that a new Vocaloid sensation was about to be born. Still, it's the kind of harmless prank that you would expect to fade into obscurity once April Fool's Day had passed, a niche part of Vocaloid history. But something unexpected happened. Instead of disappearing, the idea of a fake Vocaloid who wanted so desperately to be real gained traction. Fans didn't move on, they took pity on this non-existent fraud, this pale imitation of Miku. And the name given to this fake project? Kasane Teto. If we fast forward to 2025, Teto could be argued to be the biggest vocal synth next to Miku, who will probably never be dethroned as the face of singing robots. A community that was once dominated by Krypton Lloyds and other official Vocaloid releases has been taken over by a synth that was never even meant to exist. Just a month ago, she appeared for the first time alongside Miku at an official Miku concert, a feat never achieved before by any vocal synth that is not one of the main 6 owned by Krypton Future Media. How does a glorified shitpost turn into this? So, back in August of 2008, Vocaloid was just starting to grow into the global phenomenon it will become today. While the software had been around since 2004 with the release of Leon and Lola, it only saw mainstream success after the debut of Hatsune Miku in August of 2007, who instantly captured the internet's imagination. Miku didn't just become popular, she was like a cultural singularity, with songs and covers beginning to pour onto YouTube and a Japanese equivalent called Nico Niku, which created a dedicated Vocaloid song ranking part of the website. The name Hatsune Miku was searched so much that Google accidentally flagged her as spam, misinterpreting it as bot activity. I mean, look at the Google trend graph for Hatsune Miku in Japan. Like, that spike at the start of 2007 has never been matched by anything since, and it's not like she's unpopular. It was completely unprecedented that a fictional character could gain an organic following so quickly. The excitement was contagious. Each new upload felt like being part of a collective experiment, a creative collaboration which anyone could contribute to. Some of these early songs like Even Poker and Miku Miku Nishita Ageru are still staples of the community, having achieved a now legendary status. However, the vocal synths weren't just tools for music production, they were characters, each with distinct designs, personalities, and dedicated fandoms. The early stages of Vocaloid were highly character-driven rather than solely fueled by music. The software still sounded very robotic and janky, and people were still figuring out whether this was going to become a viable way to create music or just an internet meme. As a result, large parts of the community focused on crafting personas for these virtual singers. Miku tended to be a cute idol or an optimistic symbol of the future, although sometimes portrayed as a bit of a diva due to her overwhelming popularity compared to other vocal simps. Kagemine, Rin, and Len were often portrayed as anything from friends, siblings, lovers, rivals, or even clones. Luca tended to be viewed as older and more mature than the 16-year-old Miku, often portrayed as mysterious and elegant compared to the other vocal simps. Lots of the earlier songs play on the idea of a robot singer, or have the Vocaloids appear as characters within them. Sometimes the Vocaloid's appearance was used to represent original characters, like in the expansive Evilus Chronicles, something that is much rarer in the current era. User discussions, songs, and memes helped form each Vocaloid's personality and their perception within the fandom. People projected stories onto them, turned them into comic characters, wrote fanfics, and composed entire fictional careers. But even with all this creativity, a hierarchy of importance was already beginning to form, with Miku firmly at the top. Enter Kasane Teto. In a scene so focused on characters and storytelling, populated only by expensive, corporate idols, the idea of a fake Vocaloid who wished to be real struck a chord with fans. People latched onto her because she was a misfit, a failed Vocaloid awkwardly trying to replicate the real thing. And so the idea of Kasane Teto continued beyond the troll campaign. A couple of months earlier, a new vocal synth software had been released to minimal success. UTAU, unlike Vocaloid, was free and had the added bonus of allowing the user to create their own voice bank, so people could further develop their music by using a synthesized version of their own voice. As a result, there are many UTAUs available in all sorts of different languages. Teto's popularity led to an official voice bank being created of her, with Oyamano Mayo still as the voice provider. Teto still wasn't a real Vocaloid, but at least she could be the next best thing, and UTAU. She didn't exactly sound great, it was raw and fairly limited, but still, that added to her charm and the story of her as a wannabe idol, an answer to Miku that anyone had access to. Plus, personally, I feel that if I want to listen to robot singers, I want them to sound like robot singers. If I want to listen to humans, I would just listen to humans. The community embraced this narrative. Artists drew her as a rival to Miku or something like an annoying younger sibling, a bit like you can't help but root for just a little. Producers wrote meta songs about her desire to be a real Vocaloid, like a fake diva and Teto territory. And thanks to UTAU being free, she was a popular option for newbies looking to make covers and practice their tuning skills. And in that moment, she stopped being just a joke and started being something real. She wasn't just a Vocaloid, arguably she was something more interesting, an entirely fan-made phenomenon that challenged what virtual idols could be. This led to her generally being seen as the de facto head of the UTAU community, the Hatsune Miku equivalent for free voice banks. An UTAU update in October 2009 gave her a VCV voice bank, vowel, consonant, vowel, making her singing far more not natural than before, causing more door users to experiment with her vocal capabilities. What began as a 2-channel shitpost now had corporate backing. Twindle was established by the right holders who provided a character design and voice in order to promote and banish the character. Despite being a parody of Krypton's Vocaloids, Trindle and Krypton Future Media have maintained a positive relationship. The vocal synth community had room for both the pristine, official Miku, and Teto, the scrappy fan-made alternative. As a result, Teto is sometimes a playable character in Project Diva, a series of rhythm games centering Hatsune Miku and the other Krypton Vocaloids. And as UTAU improved, it felt like she wasn't just an imitation of Miku, but something entirely different. It created a duality within the fandom, the contrast between the polished and the experimental, the corporate darling and the people's creation. The early Vocaloid fandom was a unique time, full of uncertainty and raw potential, and as the years went on, a lot changed. Producers came and went, Vocaloid shifted in and out of popularity, and a lot of the early novelty wore off. The chaotic creativity of the initial scene had given way to a more subdued era by the late 2010s. Many iconic producers had left to work on different projects, or shifted to more mainstream music. Newer producers also struggled to gain traction in a very different YouTube landscape that no longer favoured Vocaloid the way it once had, and a fanbase that still clung religiously to the classics. Plus, Nico Nico, once the heart of Vocaloid, even removed its dedicated Vocaloid ranking system in 2017, in part due to declining uploads but also declining activity on the site as a whole. It got to the point that from around 2017 to maybe early 2020, people were proclaiming that Vocaloid was dead, a vestige of an internet that no longer existed, with a waning interest I felt unlikely to be renewed. I joined the fandom at the latter end of this time, a few months before the pandemic, and it was a depressing time to be getting into Vocaloid. I kept seeing people doom posting about it and how it was dead and would never be revived. I saw the hashtag make Vocaloid great again quite frequently, and whatever happened in the Vocaloid scene was reflected in the UTAU scene. Teto was still the head of her own subgenre of vocal synths, but UTAU was becoming even less relevant as the entire synth scene lost the internet's attention. She was on her way to becoming more of a nostalgic symbol than a truly useful creative tool. I've never been super deep into the UTAU scene, but generally I saw people use her to make retro covers or as a learning tool before moving on to a better program. But then something happened that would change Vocaloid's history forever. We had a global pandemic! And there was nothing better for Vocaloid sales and interest than the entire world being forced to stay inside and on our screens. I mean, look at Miku. This is perfect digital escapism. I'm not sure I would have fallen down the Miku rabbit hole myself if I hadn't been so desperately looking for anything to do while stuck in my room. However, it definitely wasn't just a pandemic that revitalized Vocaloid. Project Sekai, a Vocaloid-based mobile rhythm game, exploded onto the scene. And it didn't just reuse the same classic Vocaloid tracks, it commissioned original songs from producers, many becoming the most popular tracks of this decade. It also added original characters who made Vocaloid covers, turning part of the game into a visual novel of sorts, bringing an entirely new audience to Vocaloid. It's popular enough in its own right that it just had an entire film made around it. Even though they branded it as a Miku movie, it's really the Project Sekai movie. And it is finally getting a UK release this summer, so I will drag one, if not multiple, of my friends to see it with me. TikTok also grew massively in popularity, and Vocaloid's propensity for eye-catching visuals and unique hooks has led to many songs going viral, introducing even more people to the subculture. It helped fill the void that had been left by YouTube switching to not promoting Vocaloid as much. By 2022, Vocaloid was definitely not dead anymore. UTAU wasn't having quite the same resurgence, software updates had slowed, and it felt increasingly outdated in this new era of Vocaloid. Miku might be riding high on the wave of TikTok virality and Project Sekai mania, but UTAU's clunky interface and really robotic vocals felt increasingly outdated in an era of nearly human-sounding synths. A lot of fans had moved on, and even Teto, UTAU's longtime mascot, seemed likely to become a relic of the internet past. Until we arrive at April Fool's Day 2023. Twindrill had been teasing something big for Teto's 15th birthday, but no one knew exactly what to expect. Out of nowhere, Twindrill dropped that she'll be getting a SynthV AI voice bank, so she was becoming part of an innovative vocal synth engine that first launched in 2018, another alternative to Vocaloid. Synthesizer V's big draw was that I could blend traditional voice bank technology with AI-assisted tuning, allowing both amateurs and professionals to achieve really natural, high-quality vocals with unprecedented ease. And suddenly, the fake Vocaloid was outclassing the real ones. The difference between an UTAU and SynthV voice banks was like night and day. Where UTAU required hours of manual tuning to be understood, SynthV's AI gave her a human-like voice almost instantly, and, importantly for a lot of Western producers, English support right out of the box. The fandom's reaction? A mixture of shock, glee, and trepidation. A lot of longtime Teto fans treated the announcement like an underdog victory lap. After 15 years of being treated like a fake Vocaloid, she was finally a legitimate synth, with an added AI twist that put other popular voice banks to shame. I can't emphasize how much of a surprise it was to hear Teto, of all voice banks, sounding so human. Also, she was undeniably superior to Miku, at least in terms of sounding human. I remember seeing artists drawing her like teasing Miku, whilst producers raced to experiment with her new voice and push it to its limits. Of course, Miku still remained untouchable, but Teto was rapidly gaining popularity in contrast to other vocal synths, even the ones backed by Krypton. Who can resist being part of a success story like that? By 2024, she was thriving in the mainstream. I had 4 Teto songs in my personal top 10 vocal synth songs of 2024. Yababina, Machine Love, Language of the Lost, and Medicine, which is clearly the most useful metric for judging something's popularity. I actually ranked Machine Love as number 1. It just functions as a beautiful tribute and overview of Teto's entire career, and her desire to be real, and just made me feel like stupidly emotional for an entirely fake idol. She's just like me for real. But seriously, just looking at the Google trend shows interest in her only growing since her SynthV release. It practically looks like a rocket launch. Covers also exploded because her AI voice bank was extremely easy to tune, even for English, which is notoriously difficult to make coherent using vocal synth software. With her new voice bank, she'd finally made it to the big leads, a fully fledged Miku alternative. But the real turning point in both Miku and Teto's recent careers came with the release of what would become the most popular Vocaloid song across multiple platforms of all time. A genre-defining duet that didn't just become the fastest Vocaloid song to reach 100 million views on YouTube, but also reshaped the entire vocal synth landscape. Mesmerizer hit the Vocaloid wall with a bang, exploding in popularity in a way never seen before. At its core, the track had the perfect formula for virality. The song itself was a really catchy brainworm, blending hypnotic beats with a melody that lodges itself deep in the listener's mind. But what truly propelled it into the stratosphere was its music video, drawn by the popular and somewhat notorious Vocaloid artist Kasane, who has an uncanny ability to make everything they draw go viral, for both good and bad reasons. It was impossible to look away from. My attention span has been fairly rotted by Instagram Reels, but the first time I clicked on it, I barely processed I'd reached the end until I was staring at another ad. Pretty colours, and movement, and sound had me hooked just like an iPad baby. And that's the point, it's mesmerising. Miku and Teto are being hypnotised within the song, just as the viewer is hypnotised whilst watching it. It also includes a ton of hints and clues for hidden danger, subtle cries for help from Teto, leading people to troll through it frame by frame. You've got sign language and Morse code, and look, Teto gets hypnotised just at the end. This sparked a wave of online theorizing, deep dives, and visual breakdowns, the kind of obsessive fandom behavior that only a truly impactful work can inspire. And, most importantly for this video, it combined two of the most popular vocal synths of the year in what would be the most popular song of the year. Hatsune Miku's slightly robotic, crystalline tone contrasted perfectly with Teto's more human-like emotive delivery, a blend that showcased the strengths of both vocal synths. The designs also complement each other brilliantly. I mean, everyone loves red versus blue. In doing so, it shifted the Miku-Teto relationship from rivalry to partnership. Instead of competing, they became a powerhouse duo. Not just opposites, but reflections. After Mesmerizer, Miku and Teto duets became a common sight in Vocaloid circles, with certain songs clearly taking very heavy inspiration. What used to be a fun niche pairing became the Vocaloid trend. But I don't want to treat all Miku and Teto duets just as a derivative of Mesmerizer. The voices and designs complement each other very well, and it's understandable why it seems to be the go-to choice for current producers. Literally while I was writing the script, Pinocchio P came out with a Miku-Teto duet. I cannot escape from them. Teto's surge in popularity didn't just show up in music charts, it also led to a massive uptick in memes featuring her. Of course, she's always been a meme icon. She started life as a shitpost and that energy has followed her ever since. The fact that she even exists is a joke in itself. And while some of her newer fans probably aren't aware of her origin, this idea of Teto as a shitpost and the cultural hive mind has meshed really well with the current wave of internet chaos brainrot that is so popular. Miku will always be bigger than Teto, but that also means she has a slightly more sanitized portrayal on the internet. She's a major brand, and a lot of the funny Miku stuff comes from this, like the infamous Domino's Miku collab, or more recently, her appearance in Sonic Races. I think she just has a slightly more professional perception online, more wholesome absurdity than pure brainrot. Like, let's take a look at some of the biggest recent trends for both of these characters. When I think of how Miku was portrayed online, some of the first things I think of are drawing trends like Brazilian Miku and Miku Beam, or even the static Miku. Brazilian Miku was a bunch of different artists drawing Mikus from their own country, and Miku Beam was mainly artists redrawing the iconic moment from Sawtone's song. If I think your memes were more brainrot kind of angled, maybe looked at which is a cute Miku reference that featured in Anthem all the way back in 2013, only becoming a nostalgic meme in 2025. Or the, oh my god, it Miku, shitty MS Paint drawing that then got replicated by a bunch of other fandoms. I think the number one Miku joke though is just pointing to something that's vaguely blue or vaguely ponytail-ish and going, it's Hatsune Miku. Now let's take a look at what the Teto fans are doing. It's definitely a much purer form of brainrot from whatever Miku has going on. I feel like Teto fans have definitely descended to a deeper layer of internet humour. It should be noted that not everyone has fully embraced Teto's official SynthV upgrade. The new voicebank was undeniably more versatile, cleaner, and accessible, opening it up to a new wave of mainstream popularity. Yet, many long-term fans argued that her new voicebank erased what made her special. The original UTAU Teto's voice was rough, imperfect, and distinctly inhuman. Her artificial flaws and unstable tuning gave her charm. The new Teto may be objectively better in terms of quality, but to some, me, she seems too perfect. Where's the grit? The chaotic energy? Her Teto-ness? Worse, AI's tuning consistency has made her sound increasingly uniform across different producers, stripping away the individuality that once defined her music. This is useful if the aim is to have the most human-sounding voice possible, however, it raises one of my favourite parts of using vocal synths, unique tuning. With Miku, I can identify producers simply from their personal tuning style, but with Teto AI, I simply don't find that possible. It's a shift that, while useful for achieving natural-sounding vocals, erases an entire form of creative expression. At the same time, her character lore has subtly evolved. The Teto who once sprung from internet trolling and playful rivalry with Miku has mellowed. Having reached a kind of legitimacy, she just doesn't feel like the underdog anymore. Like, I don't feel like I'm punching up at Miku by listening to a song that uses a SynthV AI voice bank, which is like the cutting edge of vocal synth technology at the minute. There is a pattern that we see all the time. The moment something you love makes it, becomes mainstream, whether it be a band or a show or a vocal synth, part of it disappears. The rough edges get sanded down, replaced by something more polished and professional, and often made with slightly less soul. Or at least, it can feel like it. What began as yours slowly becomes everyone else's, and in the process it changes. It's a bittersweet feeling. I want the things I enjoy to be successful, but at the same time, I always find myself wishing for the times when it was just my thing. And I think that's how I feel about Teto. I'm happy for her success, but still nostalgic for what she used to be and what we can never go back to. I mean, it's not like UTAU Teto is dead. Anyone can still use her, but that isn't the Teto I see online anymore. Even then, the Teto I miss was becoming less and less relevant with time. I know that becoming a SynthV AI might have been the only way for her to remain relevant. Without adapting, she might have faded into obscurity, another forgotten meme in Vocaloid's lore. Instead, she thrives, not as the old Teto, not as an off-brand Miku, but as something new, a pioneer of a new age of vocal synths. That's the paradox of cult icons. The moment they resonate beyond their niche, they lose something of what made them special, yet gain something else. Longevity. It's hard loving anything that outgrows its origins. Like, the things we cherish never stay frozen in time, no matter how much we want them to. They shift, adapt, sometimes lose pieces of themselves along the way. But they also gain new meaning, new audiences, and new life. If Teto was going to survive, she was never going to be able to stay the same. Do I miss her janky UTAU days? Hell yeah. The unstable artificial sound is still what I prefer. But nostalgia alone can't keep a character alive. Her relevance was slipping, year by year, held back by outdated software and an increasingly distant era. People still care in the year 2025 about a fake Vocaloid from 2008. Most internet jokes are gone in 6 months. But Teto, she outlived her own punchline. And she didn't just survive, she evolved. It doesn't quite feel like the old Teto is dead, more that she's been resurrected. The new Teto is different, cleaner, softer around the edges, maybe a tiny bit less weird, but she's still here when so many other vocal synths have faded away. For a chimaera girl who started as a troll, that's probably the best ending we could have hoped for. Teto UTAU is dead. Long live SynthV Teto. Thanks for watching, please like, comment, and subscribe for more Vocaloid content, especially comment, I really like reading those, so stick around if you want to see more Miku and Teto stuff. Thanks, goodbye!